how the other half lived. These beautiful houses, the breeze off the river. But at Whitney Plantation, there's no hoop skirts and there's no mint juleps to serve. Only the stark contrast between how one family lived and how other families did. Enslaved Africans, ripped from their villages in Western Africa, were brought here to places like Whitney Plantation here in St. John the Baptist Parish. At Whitney Plantation, the story begins with the narrative of the enslaved Africans. Here you see the slave quarters. Welcome home to the slave quarters. After a long, hard day's work, this is where more than one family would live in a space of 12 feet by 15 feet. One bed here, the rest would be on the floor. In the cold, you have your fireplace to keep you warm. There's a porch, there's a back room here. This is life for most people that lived on the plantations. The economic engine that would drive the American economy to make us one of the great nations on earth was in many ways based upon slave labor. Here at Whitney Plantation, instead of seeing hoop skirts and glorifying a great house where only a few white people lived, we look at the story of the enslaved Africans who made this economy and who created this country of ours. Today on this plantation, we begin to see what the true contribution of these people has been. They say that the average lifespan of a male enslaved African who was working on a sugar plantation was 10 years. You can see the cauldrons here that were used to boil the sugar cane and then transfer it. The reason that was such backbreaking work, number one, sugar cane is a weed, so you had to whack it down like bamboo, and then you had to boil it down, and there was no off-season. People were working constantly, and it was hot, hot work, bone-crushing, boiling work. People sometimes ask me why the enslaved Africans didn't just rise up and rebel against their masters. Well, there was an incredible way to intimidate people that was systematic here on these plantations. They were as much like death camps as you could possibly imagine. There was a slave rebellion in 1811. It was the largest slave rebellion in American history, and it occurred here in Louisiana. We're here at a memorial for the 2,200 infants who died in captivity during slavery at Whitney Plantation. It's not moonlight and magnolias here. New Orleans, very different from other cities in America. We had a very large population of free people of color, some of them the most prominent citizens of the city. One of them, Norbert Rio, was a cousin of Edgar Degas, who was the artist, lived here in New Orleans for several months. Rio, born and raised here, Rio was a genius. He created the double vacuuming processing for sugarcane, and this greatly reduced the risks involved in moving hot liquid sugar from one vat to another. Ironically, also increased slavery. He collaborated with a man named Judah Benjamin in order to bring this process forward. Judah Benjamin would become the Secretary of State for the Confederacy. Norbert Rio would be forced to move from New Orleans because he felt that discrimination among the Afro-Creole class was increasing exponentially. New Orleans. War, Reconstruction, civil rights. These oaks could only speak.